Good evening, and we're live for August Power BI Manchester User Group. My name is Alex Taylor. If you've not seen, I think we're in live now. Good evening, welcome to Power BI Manchester. You're with Alex Taylor here this evening. Tonight is August session, our 8th of the year so far. It's our 5th webinar due to lockdown and COVID-19, but tonight we've got two fantastic guests who will be presenting on Teams this evening, and I will introduce them shortly. So let me just quickly go through my slides if you haven't seen them before. So about Power BI Manchester User Group, we've been going for 3.5 years now, coming to 4 years in January. We have over 2,000 members on Meetup, actually 2,500 now, and over 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. When we do have face-to-face sessions, we get around 80 to 100 attendees per month, and we meet in central Manchester when we can. I know you guys are eager to catch up and face-to-face meet and enjoy the Domino's pizza that we normally get. Hopefully that'll happen very, very soon. But thank you again, guys, for joining us live this evening. And as I said, if you've not attended the user group before, we have fun, interactive sessions, and the guests do share the slides. So if you missed out on any of the sessions, all the sessions are available for playback on Teams, and the lovely speakers will share their documentation where possible. About the user group, obviously we've got some great reviews of people that have attended or watched them online over the last few months, and it's really highly recommended. And thanks to it being online, we're getting people from around Europe and the world tuning in to watch our sessions. About myself, I'm a Power BI specialist in terms of recruitment. I also do BI and data analytics, data science, data strategy, data engineering. So if you are looking to change roles, looking for a new role, or you are a hiring manager, or if your company are recruiting, do get in touch. I don't want to say as I am a dedicated data enthusiast, but also a very good recruiter. Been doing it for 16 years. I've placed over 1,000 candidates across the contract market. And currently head up the Robert Walters BI Data and Advanced Analytics team. So you can see my number and my email address. Do get in touch if you are looking to have a new role. And then we'll introduce today's session. So after my intro, we'll be starting off with Isabelle, who'll be doing Excel patterns in Power BI from Excel hero to Power BI champion. And depending on timings, I think Michaela will be coming around 7 o'clock, and her topic will be showing how she collaborates with business and non-Power BI users and stakeholders to have their impacts reflected in dashboards. And also we'll talk about how Power BI interacts with Power Automate. As always, put your questions on the right-hand side. So myself, Ben, Isabelle, and Michaela can answer them. We will put the questions to the speakers if we don't know the answers, but we'll try and answer them on the Q&A, so please feel free to share them. Quick intro, Isabelle Van Campenhoudt is from Belgium. She's an MVP DataPlatform specialist. She's been working in BI for over 20 years. She's a trainer as well as a BI specialist, and she's spoken at various different European sessions like Power BI Saturday, SQL Saturday, and 24 HOP. She'll probably give you a bit more brief about herself when I introduce her in a couple of minutes. And Michaela is a BI professional from Prague. She currently works for Microsoft, where she interned at, and she's been doing that for around, I think, 6-7 years. And her topic will be on, as mentioned previously. So without further ado, I will now loop in Isabelle. Hi, Isabelle.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hello. I'm fine, thank you. So
whereabouts in Belgium are you tonight?
Yeah, Belgium, we are 1 hour later, so yeah. But that's okay for me. And the weather is terrible. Okay.
So without further ado, good luck, and any questions we have, we'll pass them through to you. If you can just do me a favour and close the box with my little face on it, that'd be fantastic. Great, that's all gone. All right, good luck.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So welcome to this session from Excel hero to Power BI champion. As Alex mentioned it before, I'm Isabelle Van Campenhoudt. It's quite difficult to pronounce because it's a Dutch name, but I'm a French-speaking person, as you can hear in my Franglish, so sorry about that. You will need to stay with that for about 1 hour. So I live in Brussels, and I've been working on Microsoft Data Platform since 1999. It's quite quite a lot, to be honest, but I'm still passionate and very enthusiastic about all the aspects that we have. For the session of today, I ask you to use a little tool that I've been using for months now due to COVID situation with my different attendee of during online training. So for the moment, you just need to take your smartphone or to go to a browser. You use the QR code and you will be connected to Vlookup/PBIMCR. And in the rest of the session, sometime you will be asked to answer some questions. Some of them will be votes, some of them will be open questions, because I'm really interested into making acquaintance with you as well, and introduce some interactivity in the session. So, the agenda of today, of course, there is always an introduction, and I will give you the context of this session. And then we will go through different steps. And as a BI professional, I'm pretty sure that now you recognize those steps. And for each of those steps, we will have a comparison between the Excel world and the Power BI world, of course. So, first of all, it's already time for you to give me some insight about you. So if you can please vote on your smartphone, it will be fantastic. Okay, thank you for participating. So I see that this evening we have a little more business analysts than the rest of people, which is interesting, of course. There are still people voting. Okay, so thank you for that. And I will continue the session. So, the context of this session actually is coming from this. When you are doing analytics and reporting for people, and I'm doing that for a few years, if I may say, usually when you give the report to the people, one of the first questions they're asking you is, can I export that into Excel? Because the stuff that people want to do when they see number is go to Excel. They want to go into their home, if I may say, because analysts, they are literally living into Excel. When you are in a Power BI project, of course, it is important for you to see an adoption of this new tool and to pull people out of their usual comfort zone and to go more to the Power BI part. And usually, I have noticed that from the project I've been working on, and I'm still working on, to do that, one of the strategy usually is to build a community of strong, skilled people with the hope that they will spread the message like a virus. Maybe it's not a good comparison for those times to talk about virus, sorry. But so the idea is that you need to identify skilled people in your analysis. And usually the people who live in Excel are excellent analysts. And they are probably already what we can call heroes. And so if you use them, if you can convince them to go to Power BI, you will, of course, be able to build a strong community of Power BI champion. So if I go now to the Excel part, what are the Excel heroes expected to do? So when we think about that, and yes, I forgot to mention that this is really important. What I had in mind by creating this session it was to create a session for the people who are using Excel and who are pretty new to Power BI. So I'm not sure that's the case for you this evening, but this is the general idea of that, to use this really to help Excel people to understand what's going on with Power BI and what are the strengths of the two tools. So let's go back to our Excel user or Excel heroes. And usually when you think about an Excel user in the context of reporting, of course, you expect them to do complex calculation with formula and function. You expect them to create usable connected information and related tables. You expect them to provide you reporting with some charts, analysis, and visual as well. Probably they are expected also to grab information from all the company, and ideally the process will be full automated, or there is something that will help them to do that on a very nice and tidy manner. And then this is also what we expect from Excel heroes, is that they are able to distribute correctly and to refresh correctly the result that they have in their reports. So if I see this list and I organize a little the tasks, at this moment, I will organize that in a temporal process with, first of all, the collect of all the information, then the creation of usable tables, then the creation of the calculation on top of that, then the addition of graph chart analysis, and then the distribution and the result refreshed. And if I see this, it looks very, very familiar to me. So let's go to the next part of the world. When you think about a Power BI champion, what are they expected to do as well? So I will just quickly quickly put this screen here, because I'm not sure for the moment I can see if there is anything wrong. So thank you for that. So if I am on the Power BI side as a champion, what I am expected to do in the BI world, and it is a very standard and very common scheme actually, it will be, oops. Okay. It will be the classical ETL phase, extract, transform, and load, where I will collect all of my data. Then I will have the modeling, the model phase, where I will build and connect my data together. Then I will have some analysis phases, where I will build calculation and measure. Then I will, of course, create stunning visualization. And at the end, I will publish my result to share and consume. So when you take the list of someone using Excel and someone using Power BI, if you organize that a little, you see that it is absolutely the same process that you need to use as well. So what we will do now is that we will go through those different steps of the process and see what's going on each side of our two tools. So the first step, and I don't think it will be a revelation of or a scoop for someone here, but the first step, of course, is to collect and to import information. This is the hidden part of the iceberg, and usually in projects that can be the very, very painful part. So the first thing I will ask you to do now will be to answer here this question. So if you can take your smartphone and just type, what is the most common way you see people collecting data in Excel? So when you see people working in Excel, or when you are working in Excel, who knows, what is the method that you are using to collect your data? So there is no bad answer. What I want to see here is the thing that you have noticed, and if you see that someone has already answered a question, you can like it. So we will see some stuff on the screen. And sorry to make you write from your phone. Oops. Okay, we see some stuff coming in. That's really interesting. Okay, thank you for your answer at this point. So we have different possibilities that are proposed here. I see different kind of sources like email attachment, database, manual inputs, even manual inputs. I see that in two different here as well. Export from BI or ERP system, linking to SQL dataset and SSRS models. Okay, so let's have a look about those different methods. So actually, you can find people just doing a copy paste from another worksheet. That's not a method I will recommend, but I see that a lot. And of course, when they do that, sometimes they just keep the link between the source if it is from another worksheet. So this is one of the most common scenario that we can have in a whole Excel world. It is the fact that you will end up with a kind of spaghetti of workbooks who are linked together And the maintenance, of course, will be quite difficult at the end because those workbooks can be in different places and managed by different persons. Another stuff, and it is still there, even though you are using the latest Office 365 version in Excel. If you go to the option, it's still possible to use the old import function, you know, the one that allows you to grab a CSV file and to import that directly into your Excel. Of course, the problem when you are doing that is that it's a one-shot operation. This is quite a nostalgic snapshot, of course, for those who remember this method. The data connection, of course, are very interesting. So I've seen some people mentioning it in the Vlookup, is the fact that you will directly connect to a data source like a SQL database or SSRS dataset, or that can be also a Power BI data model, a cube, whatever. So you will be connected directly to your source with the Odyssey files. Is not new at all. And this is also a nostalgic screenshot from the old Excel. And another way to do that is you are using Power Pivot. And I should have asked the question maybe in a Vlookup who is actually using Power Pivot. So Power Pivot was there before Power BI, and you have a wizard in it to help you to grab some information. It's not as rich as the last solution, it's not as rich as Power Query, but it is still with some possibility. So there are still people using the wizard or the Power Pivot data connection. And then, of course, you have now the possibility to directly use Power Query from Excel, which is a very rich approach to do that. And that it should be the way to do it, actually. So you will, of course, receive the same kind of interface that the one you have in Power BI desktop, and you will be able to do the same kind of job. Speaking of Power BI, when you are there, there is not that much of a choice, but that's not bad at all, because of course we want to benefit of Power Query. And with Power Query, I don't think I need to introduce this Power Query to the audience of tonight, but you will have a real ETL tool, a real tool that gives you the opportunity to connect a lot of data sources, but not only that. You will be able also to transform them. We can mention data flows as well, which is actually using an online version of Power Query. So it's a little different because you are directly working into the Power BI service in the cloud, but you are using the same kind of technology in Power BI. So if we want to compare what are the phases of cleaning and transformation the data in the two environments. In one of my projects, I was doing what I call a Power BI clinic. So a Power BI clinic is just be available one afternoon a week for the Power user. So the business analysts that are doing Power BI report and help them with different questions. And what I have noticed, and it was the same for the training actually, is that when you show them for the first time the Power Query interface, they are just like crying of joy. Because when you are in Excel and you want to clean your data, and when you import data, you always need to clean them. There is no mystery in that. You will need to use a lot of stuff in Excel. unless you are using the Power Query part. So you will need to use maybe some stuff like flash fill, different function like trim and left, they replace manually. To summarize it, it will be like you are very skilled or you need to do a lot of work, and there is no guidance about that. I've seen a lot of legacy Excel file with a lot of macros and VBA code as well. So the thing is just to say that can be a little exhausting, actually, to clean and transform your data from Excel. You will need to twist a little the stuff. You will need to be an advanced user if you don't want to be repeatedly do some stuff. In Power Query, of course, all of that is coming by default because you have all the different possibility to unpivot your data. I have noticed that there is a lot of data source coming in form of matrix. You can split, you can clean, you can create new column, you can do all the conversion you want. You can even work with parameters, create function, because there is a true language behind Power Query, which is called the app, very complex, but also the Power Query itself is totally user-friendly. So I'm always amazed to see people starting to use Power Query, and it's so intuitive that there is not a lot of pain for them to start with this tool. But the most important point, of course, of using Power Query is that you are actually building a script and you can reuse it and refresh it every time. So this is really the point, the difference to prepare your data in a Power Query mode than in an Excel mode. But it is important to remind that you have Power Query from Excel as well. So there is a lot of users who are still using Excel like 10 years ago. It's kind of the same with the code, you know, when I'm looking at the SQL script code, I know with which version the guy was trained actually, because we all have our habits into the tools. So, okay. So the Power Query phase is very important, of course, because it is the moment that you will prepare all the stuff. So if you like cooking, I really like to cook, you know that there is a very important phase that we call in French, I don't know the word in English, it is la mise en place. And la mise en place is the moment when you prepare all the product you will need to cook. And they need all to be ready, and then you will start cooking. If you are not doing that way, it will be a mess. And it's kind of the same stuff. It is kind of the same stuff in the BI process. Okay, so the second step, once we have collected all of our product and that we are ready and happy with their cleaning and the transformation, at this point, it will be the moment to organize the information, if I may say. So when you are in Excel, actually you have different possibilities. The most granular storage that you have in Excel is the cell. And a cell by default is just an unrelated information reference. If you put an absolute value in a cell, it just exists for a cell. After that, you have also the possibility to group the information related into a table. So this is one of my favorite functions when I'm working in Excel. I will totally directly create a table, but I'm a little twisted by my database background. Okay. Then you have also the pivot table, and the pivot table is a matrix, of course, of related cells. You have the data model, and the data model was coming with Power Pivot at first, which is the father or the ancestor or the cousin of Power BI, of course. So the data model is not related cells, but it's table with relation between them. So related table, you have a true data model into Excel. And this is kind of the objective that you need actually in Excel if you want to work like a real hero, like a real champion without having too much trouble of it. So yeah, the data model is very essential. And sometimes it is implicit because when you create a pivot table, you grab data, you just will check this little box, and at this point you will have data model. A new possibility in Excel is now the fact that you can work with dynamic array, but I still prefer the data model for that. Okay. I have now, before we move to the next part regarding the data model, I have another question for you. Oops, sorry. So the question is, do you think that everyone, so meaning non-IT people as well, can understand the star schema, fact and dimension model? Again, there is not I'm very interested into your answer, actually. It's an open question, of course. Okay, maybe we can wait to have a little more people answering this. Thank you. Aha, what a suspense. Okay. I see that there is no real consensus here, but that's interesting. Really interesting. Okay, let's move to the next phase. I was asking you that because I'm a big fan of it, and I'm a big fan of it even though I am working with no BI professional or people who are not data professional or BI developer and so on. So of course, because there is some people asking what is that again? Maybe it is because you are using Data Vault to design your data model, or maybe it is just because you are not aware of what it is, this star schema. So let's go dig into that. Okay, so the star schema modeling actually is based on a metaphor. So, and I I find it really intuitive to explain to all the people. And once they understand that, they will be able, even in Excel or in Power BI, they will be able to create a good model as well. So we need to know that when we are doing analytics on data, in this model, which is from Kimball, actually, you will make a difference between your data. You will identify the data that are facts, and you will centralize them into a fact tables. And so those data are the data you can make calculation on. So for instance, I will go with the very usual use case, the sales. So if you have a fact table for your sales, you will have some fact like a quantity, a price, some stuff. You can have a calculation on it, you can have a total, you can have an average, and so on. But around that, and that is what it is building the star, actually, you will have the context of your fact. So when you are selling some stuff, or when you want to analyze your sales, you will say, I want to see the sales by product, or I want to see the sales by year or by month, or I want to see the sales by employee. And each of those by keyword actually are the sign, sorry, that you are you need a dimension. So all of this kind of data are attributes to your fact, and they are organized into separate tables that we call dimension. So in a dimension, you will find all the time aspect, you will find all the product aspect, category, attribute, and this kind of stuff. And so this kind of model is very intuitive, and people are really, usually, they really adopt it easily. Okay, talking about relation, because to build a star, of course, you will need relation, or to have data related, because you are collecting your data from different data sources, you will need to build some relation. You will need to connect a product to a sales, for instance. What are the method or the outil, the tools, sorry, or the function that you can use? In Excel, usually it is the moment in the files that you will see the Vlookup, because people are trying to make references and say, okay, when I see this information, I need to check that information. And they are using Vlookup. Sometimes they are using index with that, because Vlookup is a little limited. Although now there is XLOOKUP as well, which allows you to go in all the direction you want to retrieve the information you want to make a reference to. But it's still somehow fragile, because it is in the formula of the cell that you put the reference to another information, and you need to repeat that and to make that work. So it's quite fragile. Another and a good way to do that is to build a data model in Excel. So with Power Pivot, you will have access in the Power Pivot window to the data model, and you will be able to create connection to your data model. You can do that either when you are in the pivot table, and you can manage the relationship between the tables in your Excel workbook as well. And then once you have a data model, You can also use the DAX language, and I will talk, of course, of DAX language. There are some functions in DAX, of course, to build a relation on the fly. In Power BI, and so in data model as well, because they are working the same way. In Power BI, there is a possibility before working on the data model, there is a possibility to do some work and combine and merge and append with the M language into the Power Query phase. So that's a good question, because sometimes your relation, they need to exist just at the moment you are importing your data. So you need to really think about that, and I'm going back to my concept of mise en place. For me, all the work that you can do at the Power Query phase needs to be done there. Okay, to build your different tables, to build your fact, a clean fact table, to build clean dimension table. Then again, in the data model, like in the data model in Excel, you will be able to do a nice and clean connection between the facts and the dimension to have your star. And also you will have the DAX function, because sometimes you need to express a relation on the fly at the moment that you are asking something in your report. That's very important as well. Okay, so once the model is prepared, is built, like you want the model to be, it will be the time to maybe create some calculation with formula and function. So again, here we will have a look on the way Excel is working with that and Power BI is working with that. Okay, so in the world of Excel, usually when you are using Excel function, you are using a cells or a range of cells as a reference, and your function is explicitly applied in the formula of your cells. So it is a very explicit way to work, meaning that each of your cells need to have a description attached to it that tells the system, that tells Excel what Excel needs to calculate at this specific place. If you are working with DAX function, and you can work with DAX function when you have a data model, meaning that you can do that either in Excel or either in Power BI. So I know that looks a little confusing here, but it is very important for me. This is one of the big points of this presentation, is that once you have a data model, you can work in Excel mostly in the same way that you are working in Power BI. So this is very, very important. So when you work with function in the DAX language, you will use column as reference. For instance, in the calculated column, that will be treated like a physical column, and that will create extra row in your model. Or you can also work with a table as reference, and you will create a measure, and the measure will be calculated as well, but it's a little different than a calculated column, because it will be calculated on the fly, and there are different implications for that, meaning that when you are creating calculated column in with DAX in your data model, you are making a bigger model because the data are created in memory. When you are using a measure, it will be calculated on the fly, and it will not cost you that much memory, but more processing CPU time. Okay, and the big difference between what you are doing in DAX and what you are doing in the classical Excel is that when you are using a visual in Power BI, it will be implicitly applied. So you don't need to go to cells in the tables and to say, okay, I want these cells to be that. It will be directly used and applied depending on the context, the level, the crossing of the information that you are, the situation where you are. So, again, time to give me some feedback about this time. I'm talking about Excel function. So what is your most used Excel function, the function that you love or you need the most? So when I'm saying Excel function, is not DAX, it's really Excel function. No one is using Excel function anymore? That's a possibility? Yes, I see the classical coming in. Excellent. I'm very happy with what I am seeing here. Okay. So what we have here is that I see sum, SUMIF, Vlookup, subtotal, index, match, all of those functions. They are obviously needed to make some reporting, some aggregation, some to establish some connection between your data, the famous VLOOKUP. And all of those functions can be totally replaced when you are using Power BI or when you are using a data model and the DAX. And they will even be implicitly replaced. For instance, when you will create a relation between two tables in your data model, you can already put the VLOOKUP to the side. The same for the sum, of course, because it will be implicitly applied as well, like in a pivot table, of course. And regarding the SUMIF, this is a nice transition for me to ask you this time. Sorry, I am really making you work this evening, but just let's see what is your most useful DAX function or the DAX function you really like or you really need. Of course, maybe not calculate, but why not? So let's vote again. So thank you for that. So this time what I am seeing here is the, for instance, use relationship. This is the one I was thinking about when I was mentioning that you can use DAX function to create relations. So sometimes when you create relation, there are relations who are not active, but that you want to use in particular situation. Of course, calculate. It's a nice way to start with. I see filter, I see summix and filter, of course. I see count, okay, but count should be implicit. I see the switch, I like that one too. The if, and so on and so on. Okay, thank you for that. Of course, I will not be exhaustive here, but okay. I've seen a lot of sums in both of the voting, and so let's talk about aggregation. Aggregation is one of the most used pattern when you are doing reporting, because you need to have the information from the most aggregated to the most detailed. So to do that in Excel, of course, you can use formula, and you have some function to do that, like the sum, average, count, and there are different child that you can use as well. But again, you will need to apply them to specified range. So you will need to explicitly create your formula with the good reference. The pivot table will propose you the aggregation. So you will be able, with a pivot table, of course, to have an implicit usage of aggregation through the whole pivot table. And there are some nice possibility there, like the running total and this kind of stuff. Subtle stuff. And by default, a pivot table is only using one table. But at the moment that you will have the power pivot and a data model and relation between your table, of course, it will be another story. And all your aggregation will be implicit as well. In Power BI, so we are in an implicit mode, meaning that the moment that in your model a field is numeric and that you do not change the aggregation by default, they will be applied to the whole data model. So it will be really, really easy when you are creating something to have directly your result. If you want to create more specific stuff, you can, of course, use DAX, and you can also use calculated column to make some stuff, but the problem, I mentioned it before, I think, I'm not sure, is that they will be applied row by rows. The measure, though, they will be applied by the context, meaning the junction of your relation. So if you remember well, the famous by product, by year, by month, by customer, and so on. Okay, the time intelligence, again, so there is also a very, very needed pattern, the time intelligence. When you are working in pure Excel mode without the data model, the date and time function that you have are pretty static, actually. So you can only manipulate the date. But if you switch to the DAX mode, you will have, I think it's something like 35 functions that you can use. And also there is a time, very real-time intelligence into the Power BI itself. So with DAX, you will have access to different functions, like maybe we can have a little look here. I still have some stuff. for instance. So this file is a really nice one. It is prepared by a friend of me, and it is like, you know, a reference with all the different measure and function that you can use. And so he has prepared a page here in a PowerBI report by using the different time intelligence function, like the year to date here. Also, you can have here the parallel period. So I will just go through the different formula. And this one, for instance, is particularly interesting because it will allow you to see your data in the same period the year before, or in the same period at the period, the granularity of the period you are working with. So they are quite powerful, and there is a lot of them. So it is really interesting. This file in Power BI is like a library of all the functions, and they are functioning with a very simple data model. So if you are interested in, I will give you the link, because it's like a kind of cheat sheet, what we call in French a post-bet. So there is no literally a traduction, not likewise mise en place, put in place. Thank you for that. I've seen the chat. Okay. But if I go to an Excel and I want to see the basic function here, and I go to date and time, you see that there is no real intelligence here. It's more variation around the time, around the date as well. But the good news is that when you have a data model, you can use DAX as well into your Excel. So I'm quickly checking the time because I think I'm a little, I need to be a little faster. I'm very sorry about that, Michaela. Okay, so one of the most important part, of course, of your reporting will be the way that the data will be offered with visualization. And I kind of like this slide because usually people, they are like, meh. So maybe you can quickly give me your advice about that. So 85% of people do not understand the data they see. So are you okay with that or not? Please vote. So the idea here is to say that when people are looking into a report, usually they don't directly understand what they are seeing. Okay. I will, okay. I see that there are more and more people agreeing with the idea. Of course, it is a little provocative, this slide, but it's good to start the discussion around a very important part of the reporting, which is the visualization. And this is probably the part where Excel will let you a little down, because Excel is a grid-first based tool, although we now have more visual than before. So if you remember, a few years ago, we had the PowerView, which was, at first, I think it was in Silverlight. Who knows, who knows anymore what Silverlight is, but PowerView is deprecated, so it's not there anymore. Since Excel 2016, we have new chart type, is a little richer, and in Office 365, so you have all the stuff coming in that will help you to create some stuff. So there is a fair amount of visual now in your Excel. The trouble is that the interactivity is not quite the same that what you can have in Power BI. I will just maybe quickly go to up here and just to show you a typical sample. I have just downloaded that. This is what you can achieve with Excel if you want. It's not that the same. It's not interactive as it is when you are using a Power BI report. Okay, I have on purpose choose a terrible sample, but still, I see that a lot. In Power BI, what you have is richer than just a list of visual, because you will have all the interaction between your visual, because you can choose to filter them or not, to highlight them when you are clicking. When you move your mouse, there is always something to do. The drill downs and the drill through are very easy to put in place, even for, you don't need to be a developer to prepare those stuff. You will have access to advanced filtering option. It's totally interactive. You have functionality like the Q&A, for instance, will help you to provide a really new way to let people create their own chart from the question. So I will not make the marketing of Power BI now, but I think we all agree that Power BI is a really visual tool. So let's move to the last part, and I will go a little faster now. So at the end, what you want to do is to distribute and to refresh what you have done. And what it is very important with that is, of course, that when you distribute your report, you need to do that in a way that you will not end up with a dozen of copy of your report that everyone can modify. So you need a central place, and of course the Power BI service or the Power BI server, if you are on-prem, will offer you that. And you will maybe able to achieve the Holy Grail, the one version of the truth in your report, but depending the way you are working with, there is no miracle there. So one of my, it is the last question. I am wondering if you are publishing Excel report as well, because it is totally possible to publish an Excel file into the Power BI services and to consume it online. I think I have, oops, sorry. I have a sample of that here. You see, I have published my report here. Yep. So this is totally possible, but with some limitation. Okay, so no one is publishing Excel report as well. Usually when I'm seeing that by customer or project is more for legacy reason. I'm really sorry. I'm losing my screen here. I don't know why, but okay. So what it is important once your report is done. So it's the refresh of your data, and it's quite challenging in Excel because you will have your data connection and you will need to choose if the report is refresh and opening, meaning that the user who want to consume the report sometimes will have to wait until all the Vlookup and all the linked workbook and all the data source are loaded. Sometimes you can use a third tool to do that. I've seen people using scripts for that. There are also macros, but you need you know, to do some bricolage here. It's not that easy. Of course, in Power BI, you can choose to work with import directory live, And when it is the time to publish your report, you will have the possibility to have a real enterprise solution, meaning that you can use the data gateway, that you can schedule your refresh and so on. But it's already there because you have your framework. And it's time for the conclusion. I always the impression that I will be too much time, and it's not the case, so sorry about that. So my conclusion regarding the Excel era and the Power BI champion is that either you are using it or you are using the other one, the most important thing to do is that you think data model. So you can still use Excel, why not, in parallel with Power BI, but the key is the data model. Also, you need a clear process, and for that, Power BI will really help you, sorry. Also, please think simple. So do all the dirty, bad stuff into the Power Query to have a neat, simple model after that. Yeah, when I am saying think of the grid, say, please stop with the report in form of tables. Use the visual and help people to understand what you are trying to tell them, what you are trying to help them to decide with your data, with good visualization, which is another subject, but a very important one. So I have put some resources for you, so you can have more information if you want. And thank you for that.
Okay, Isabelle, thank you very much for that. I'm not sure if Alex is there.
I'm here.
I'll hand over to you to introduce Michaela then.
First of all, thank you very much to Isabelle for your talk.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Thank you for that. Are you happy to share your slides and your data from tonight's talk?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you getting involved. Hopefully, we can get you over to Manchester very, very soon to present and meet the community. I think that's the whole point of these events, is actually to network and meet the guys. I think webinars are great, but I think the face-to-face element is the best bit about doing these sessions. So thank you very much for tonight. I will now pass the baton over to Michaela. Hi, Michaela.
Hello, can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
I can see your screen. If you can just drag that mini screen out of the way.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Are you over in Prague tonight?
Sorry?
Are you in Prague?
Yes, in Prague, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, because we're running over slightly, I'll let you start and introduce yourself to our attendees. Thank you, Michaela. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody, again. And today I would like to talk to you about how to collaborate with the business and how to engage people who are not used to working with PBI to still actually have some input in your PBI reporting. As Alex has said, my name is Michaela. You can see my contact and my LinkedIn on the screen. Happy to be connected with you. Happy to hear your comments, your feedback, or your questions, of course, through this channel or then later. I'm based in Prague, in Czech Republic, and I've been working for Microsoft for the past almost 3 years. I'm working as a finance analyst for Central and Eastern Europe, and I'm specializing at our small and medium businesses. Let's say my length of working with PBI and with Microsoft tools is not that much actually. My experience has been a little over 2 years, but hopefully I will be able to give you some ideas on how to actually bring in more people to collecting the dashboards, and hopefully my idea of a solution might save you some time and be useful to you. A little bit of the background on the challenge. So why I actually want to engage more people in my PBI reports, and why it's useful for me. And it might be useful if we have some financial professionals or in general controllers in the call. It might be very useful for you, especially if you're working in a big organization. Let me just give you an idea of how I work. So I work in an environment where there's a lot of data, and we do have great clarity on the data. I'm lucky to work with Microsoft. The need for me to actually clean up the data is minimal, but from my perspective, I'm looking at 36 countries over Central Eastern Europe, and I'm the only finance person looking at my segment in CE. So you can imagine the complexity just having the 36 countries in. As I said, my segment is just one. I'm looking at small and medium businesses, but then there's a lot of Microsoft products, and I'm sure you know a lot of them, but the granularity I use, I look at about 30, 40 products quite usually. So it's a lot of data. And then think of the different pricing levels or sales motions, how Microsoft sells their products. We of course have different types of agreement with different types of customers. We have partner companies, and so when you think about how to get insights from this data, it's already quite complex. But then there's actually another level to this complexity, which is organization complexity. We do have sort of specialized people in different departments, and all those specialized people have, of course, their own information silos. So with finance, you can talk about run rates, you can talk about benchmarks, how we stand against our peers from other areas. We can talk about return on investment, etc. Then with marketing, you would talk about the product a bit more, so they have more product insights. They can tell you about the competition. They have this sort of insights that it's kind of more difficult to get from the data. And then you have salespeople, and you have salespeople not only on my hierarchy, so let's say Central Eastern Europe, but we do have salespeople in different sub-regions, and they do actually interact with customers and with partners. So they have another sort of silo of information that's kind of difficult to reach. And then of course these people are looking for different types of information, even in finance data, even in finance dashboards. That's not it. Then there are of course some exceptions. We do tend to see some frauds in the data. Sometimes there are some deals that are under some compliance revision. Sometimes we want to adjust our baseline to see how we would have ended up if something hadn't happened, or if something had happened, of course. And now going back to the first line, if you think about the complexity of 36 countries, 40 products, and a bunch of different motions that we have for sales, it's kind of difficult for me then in the end to give a proper conclusion on a lot of things, or it takes me a lot of time, a lot of emails, a lot of Teams chats, a lot of Teams calls to kind of consolidate into something that we are interested in. And part of my job is not only budgeting, forecasting, but it's also controlling. And when you think of how controlling is done today, or actually how we still tend to do it, it's a lot of emails, it's a lot of PPTs, it's a lot of, let's say, PDFs, even OneNotes, a lot of snipping, static tables, trying to comment on what we see from different perspectives, trying to include many different stakeholders in this, and of course, different people, as I said previously, different people look for different information. So I was thinking, since I have so many people that do have insights, I do have the data, the insights from the data, but then we have so many people with qualitative insights, or even with insights on the exceptions and frauds. Let's bring them in. Let's make them collaborate on the PBI that I'm rolling out in the end for everybody. So I was thinking how to do this, and this would be the framework that I want to share with you. Of course, why we're here. This is Power BI, and Power BI is my main weapon in this, of course. But with Power BI, you can connect to different data sources. So not only am I importing data from the databases, But then I'm using extensively Excels and SharePoint lists that are easy for the business to collaborate on, because they do know, of course, Excels, they're able to use SharePoint lists, or maybe even Microsoft Forms. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with Microsoft Forms, but it's easy to create a form where people would just input some stuff. And since I have the Power BI live connected to these Excels that are located on my SharePoints, the people will be able to actually see their input, of course. But then I need, of course, to have the control over what's actually appearing. So that's where the Power Automate comes in. And Power Automate is one service that I would like to demo you today, together, of course, with the whole sort of infrastructure of the solution, because Power Automate gives me not only the availability to control what I have in the reports, but also tells me when there's a new input from anybody, to give me a link to get there, but it also refreshes the data set for me. So basically, my data set can get refreshed anytime anybody wants to make a change, but it's then up to me to sort of control what the users actually see. Let me just share a little bit more on how this works. So in the previous version of my reporting, we would have this simple relationship, right? We have a database or database data, and then I have a model, and then I have this PBI that's good enough, very good, hopefully, for everybody to draw some conclusions, but it doesn't give you all the information that you might want. And then once the user is actually reading this Power BI, he gets questions, right? So then I get an email, or somebody gets an email, and then we have different threads, and we talk about data from different perspectives. What we do right now, or what we're igniting right now, is basically this approach of not only having the database data in, because of course we do need to see what is coming up in the tools, because that's the official data, but we do have the adjustment files, and the adjustment files in our case are managed by the business. So the business are the owners of whatever appears as an adjustment, but then there's finance as the final approver of whatever appears in the dashboard. And lastly, there's qualitative insights, because sometimes, of course, it's nice when people adjust your number by something, but there might be something going on in the market, or there might be something going on with the political situation, or when we have public sector deals, there might be some interesting background to that. So we're actually having Power BI right now to also include commentaries from different persons, from different perspectives, different parts of organization. So that way, your model basically becomes your self-service tool for anybody interested, sort of a controlling tool, which you're still a manager of, still an owner of, but many people can help you explain or tell the story and support the story that you're trying to tell with your data, with some qualitative commentaries or with their adjustments. Now there's also Power Automate in play, and I'm going to show you the solution that I have in place for adjustment files, as well as the comments, how it works, how to set it up. It's going to take literally 3 minutes to set up a Power Automate solution. And how I work with it is I do get notified whenever something changes in my files, whenever there's a new comment or data input by the stakeholders, and also my Power BI refreshes, as I said already. So let's go on to the demo. I'm actually going to be quite quick, as I see. So if you have any questions, even in the meantime, feel free to actually ask. But let's go into what I want to show you. So here's a simple demo report. Really very simple, but this one is actually taking some mockup data from the database, and then we have adjustments in as well. You see that I have some basic KPIs like revenue month over month and year on year. I'm tracking the same values basically by products, and then I'm looking at month over month growth. And here on the top, of course, on the right, I have some filters, but on the top I have the most important ones, which is which month we want to see. But then this is the part that's interesting here, whether I want to see adjustments in or not. and whether the adjustments are approved. Here on the right, I could also check who made the comment or the adjustment, so you can choose whether but basically if you input an adjustment, you can immediately see how your adjustment gets reflected, who did the comments, and whether the finance actually approved of this adjustment or not. And of course, there's a lot of different perspectives you can take on the data. There can be different filters that you have in the Excels that the business is used to working with. Like, for example, what is interesting to finance, what is interesting to marketing, but that's up to you and up to your organization how to set it up. Now, if I go into the supporting files, this would be my mock-up for comments, and don't read the comments. It's recipes for cookies and stuff, because I was too lazy to actually think of anything. But this is the granularities my peers would be filling in, which is simple for them, simple enough, a month, or it can be even left blank, or it can be a quarter or anything. Product and which subsidiary, or they can leave it blank again. And then the comment itself. So easy enough, just inputting one additional row and it appears there. So anybody can pretty much do this and participate on the PBI. And this would be my template for revenue adjustments. Again, something very similar, a month, a product, where it's located, what is the value that we want to adjust by, what is my justification for this? This is the part that's going to be important for me as a finance person, and who did the input, so that I can contact the person in case I needed more information on this, or they can of course send me an email. In the PBI, in the Power Query part, I set it up so that all the blank fields here get replaced by awaiting approval, so that you saw in the finished PBI report. And you see that right now my adjustment value is 82K if I have only finance approved adjustments in. If I'm adding awaiting approvals, it's going to jump up slightly. If I exclude adjustments, it's going to give me a 0. This is done by the switch function. Again, if you were interested in them, I'm actually not seeing the questions. So if there are questions, feel free to unmute yourselves, or I would ask any of the moderators to unmute, because I'm actually on one screen only, unexpectedly. But the switch function is actually used for this, and this way I see the data, how it's coming from the database. So this is the official reporting, and then this would be our adjusted reporting. Now for the comments part, I'm actually using tooltips. So this is a very simple way of seeing any comments that we might have on any particular granularity. If I choose, for example, Czech Republic and Slovakia, you will see that everything changes, but also I do have some different insights for Czech Republic and Slovakia on the product granularity. Not sure if I have it set for everything, but yeah, I do. So this is one way of working with the comments. It can be the tooltips. Of course, the tooltips will only show you the top comment, the way I set it up. I'm going to show you the tooltip in a second, but there are multiple ways to working with the comments in PBI. So it can be a table, it can be a tooltip filtered to anything that you might set up in the filters in the Excel. Here is actually how it looks. I'm not sure whether you know how to set up your own tooltip, but basically what you need to do for that is that under the page formatting here, you will click on the tooltip here. Page information is tooltip, and then page size, I have set it up to custom to make it a little bit smaller, but you see that by default you can even have a tooltip size which is slightly bigger than this one. And then you will see in the end how big it is in the report itself. I think this is still readable, and it's not too big to overlap too many of the visuals that I have here. Now let's try to have a demo on the Power Automate solution. So Power Automate used to be named Flow. So you will see in my browser that it's actually flow.microsoft.com. Right now we're renamed to Power Automate. And Power Automate gives you the ability to basically cooperate or collaborate with more than 100 apps, and it's not only Microsoft apps, it's also apps like Facebook, Gmail, Slack. So for example, you can set up a Power Automated solution that if you get a new email in Gmail from a specific person, it gives you a notification, or it pushes you to do something. So there's a lot of ways to actually do this, and I'm always thinking I need to think of which flows would make my life easier, and I always fail to do so, but at least I started using this at work. You see that there are some ideas like save Office 365 email attachments, get a push notification when you receive an email from your boss, get today's weather forecast for my current location. A lot of ways to use this, but as I said, today we're going to demo the business case. So I'm going to hit create, and it's taking some time for some reason. There we go. I have a lot of flows I can choose from, but what we're going to do is the automated flow, because we want this flow to be triggered by something that actually happens somewhere in the cloud. So I'm hitting automated flow, and we're going to call it, let's say, PBIMCR demo. And this is where I choose my trigger. So whatever action happens and triggers the rest, this is the place to get it. So I want to go do SharePoint stuff, and I want a file to be modified on a SharePoint. So when an item or file is modified, that's good enough for me. And I'm gonna hit create. And this is my first step. Now let me just briefly take my SharePoint address to input it here. And this is it. My SharePoint list name is our finance reporting, and then my journey there is C finance reporting /archive/test/adjustments, I hope. Trying to learn this by heart, and then we go into the new step. So the trigger is done. Now I want to see some action. So as I was saying, I want to be notified when something happened. So I'm choosing notifications here, and I want to be sent an email notification. My subject is, let's say, a new adjustment has been added, and notification email body can be check it out. I would insert a link. Obviously, that would be a better solution, but for now, let's check it out. And then my new step, another one, I could end up here. It would be all that my Power Automate would do, but I want to continue a little bit more, and I want to see a refreshed data set. And we're going to be working with my workspace where my data set is actually published. And I'm going to be working with demo demo collab report. That should be it. And I'm going to hit save. And that's it. That's it. In my flows, you will now see PBIMCR demo flow here. And let's actually demo how that works. So before we go in there, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to show you whatever awaiting approvals we have. And I need to refresh. I see that I didn't refresh from the last time I was testing. Here we go. Sorry for the wait. Okay, and we want to see whatever is awaiting our approval, so that you believe me it actually works. Oh, okay, then I didn't refresh the data set. Never mind. We have 1 million of adjustment value, so let's give it another line. I'm going to go into revenue adjustments. That's the file that should be changing. And now let me just maybe copy the whole row I'm just going to select it for July, which is the month where we are demoing. And let's give Russia a big adjustment. And this is going to be as justification. And that's it. Now let's wait what happens. I'm going to have a look at my Power Automate flow. So I'm going to go into PBIMCR demo just to show you what happens here. I don't need to have this open. It can be closed. It works on its own. And if I set it up correctly, very soon in here in the 28-day run history, I should see that something happened. Still not there. Usually takes a few seconds. There we go. So you see that on August 27th at 8:30 of my time, 7:30 of yours, 3 seconds ago, something happened. And my flow succeeded. I already see on my phone that I'm getting an Outlook notification. You're going to see it here. Suddenly something popped up. I'm going to share how the email actually looks like. Let me see that. External reply. A new adjustment has been added. Check it out. That's what we wanted to see. And now if I go into my report and I hit refresh, our adjustment should jump up to 3 million if I'm not mistaken. Did I put just 1 million? No, 2. Okay. Oh, yeah, because I don't have the 1 million anymore. All right. So you see that Russia went up quite significantly. Their month over month would go up like crazy, but of course we're not there. So this is why we have this finance approved solution in as well. And of course, if I wanted to see the normal data, I would just exclude adjustments. So up until I actually check it out or any of my colleagues check it out, because I have these cells locked only for finance, we will see just the adjustments that were approved. So if anybody from the business puts in something that doesn't make sense, we are the police over this one. So I think that was actually the full demo. I was quite quick. I'm open to any questions or feedback from your side. I hope this might have been helpful to some of you. For me, it's a time saver. It's also a way for me to collect the information more quickly than I would before, and to actually get qualitative insights that previously I would have to send out a couple of emails every here and there. Right now, I actually can ask my colleagues to use Excel instead. And anybody who comes into the report can actually see whatever my analysis would have looked like. Of course, I input my own comments as well. But instead of just a report, of course, Power BI is not just a report, but instead of just Power BI report, this is a controlling tool instead. That would be all from me. Not sure if there are any questions.
Hey, yeah, Michaela, it's Ben here. There is a question from Adriana. It's in the Q&A, which says, can you add the link to a Power BI report in the notification email? Yes, absolutely. So you can basically add anything you want in the notification email. So if you have a look back where I was, I'm going to go into my flows and I'm going to go into PBI Manchester demo. That was the one. Sorry, I wanted to actually edit it. And of course, you have a lot of other ways you can set up. So for example, you can send a notification not only to yourself, not only this notification, but you can send out an email to even multiple parties. So up to you. I'm going to just click this, and in the body you can do whatever you want. You can input a link, and then there's
other content you can actually do. So you see that you can play with whatever with however you set up the field. So it's very customizable and very easy to use. If that answers the question.
Yep, I think it probably does. There's no other questions coming in. I'm not sure if Alex is here or not, so let's give him a couple of seconds just to chime in.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm guessing not. So let's. Oh, here he is. No, he's not. I thought he was coming back.
I just stopped sharing and trying not to see the questions as well.
Oh, another question from James has come in, which would you like me to read that to you, or can you see that now?
I'm already reading from James. Power Automate to email the business when a dashboard alert is triggered. Yeah, amazing example as well. A limitation for dataset refresh overflow. Wow, that's a very good question, and I'm not actually sure because I do have Power BI Premium, but in general, if you have Power BI Pro license, there is a limit to 8 refreshes per day. I'm not 100% sure whether this applies also to the case when you're refreshing over Power Automate, but if anybody has an answer to this, feel free to answer.
Unfortunately, it is limited as well. So.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, I'm very thrilled to see the way you are using Power Automate. I'm a big fan of it and of Power Apps also, that you can put into your Power BI report if you want people directly to use a form in the Power BI report and to refresh it. You can do a lot of stuff. So it's an amazing tool. And you are putting your finger into something terrible, you will end up developer.
Yes, exactly. I'm not that technical. I'm technical with PBI enough for my needs and for projections, etc. But I'm more on the business side. So yeah, happy to hear another example. And if anybody has more examples, happy to learn because it's really a very powerful tool.
It's typical citizen development. It's really nice to see how the Power Platform is empowering people.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just going to give a quick plug for Lunch and Learn, which is a Power BI thing we do. Look out for that. You might see some similar things with slightly similar sort of scenario, but slightly different way of doing it to what Michaela's just demoed. So there we go. And I think, is there any limitation for dataset refresh overflow? Yeah, I used to work for Microsoft and it was great because you got all the toys in the pram to play with, and you never had to worry about pricing. When you come outside of Microsoft, sometimes your flows can get a little bit expensive. So we just need to be a bit careful and sometimes find not workarounds, but different ways of doing similar things.
Definitely. Depends a lot on your program, on your pricing, on how you're consuming. So that's a very good point. I'll also need to have that in mind. Yeah.
And so thank you for the questions. Alex is back now. Alex, I think we've just about wrapped that up. Two fabulous presentations from the ladies here. I'm gonna put your picture live, and we will, if I can. I can't get any content for you, Alex, but
no, I've got the content tonight. Well, no more to finish with.
If you share your screen, maybe we can put you live. Michaela's still sitting there in with a snazzy background.
That's fine, as long as you can hear me, it's fine.
Yeah, it's especially for this occasion. Actually, before this, my background was Mordor, which I thought was a bit depressing. So I thought I would choose something more fitting.
Okay.
Isabelle and Michaela for tonight's presentation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was really good. We are back in 4 weeks' time with Ben Simmons and Casper Ronau, who is a Danish chap. I haven't got Ben's topic yet. He's going to send it through to me next week. But Casper's talk is going to be on web scraping using Power BI. So we'll be back in 4 weeks' time. I'm not sure if Ben's mentioned, but I think Power BI Lunch and Learn is back next month. So there'll be weekly webinars on a Wednesday. So we'll be sharing details of that very, very soon. So look out for that in the next few weeks. So 24th of September for your diary, we'll be back. Thank you again to Michaela and to Isabelle. Thank you very much for taking part. I will push out your pictures tomorrow to LinkedIn and to Meetup, and if anyone in the community wants the slides, they will. We'll also be sharing the link so people can play back. So if you're watching on playback, do connect with Michaela and Isabelle on LinkedIn, and if you're after their data sets, drop me an email or contact them directly. But thank you very much. So everyone else, enjoy your evening, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's pretty